Detroit?
Peace, how you doing?
Well, you from Detroit, so I guess you start bullying people at birth. Okay, fine.
No, because originally, I didn't. I was trying to call in a little later so I could come in at the end, but everything's everything. Um, no, I'm really not gonna go too hard today. I did just want to say I know one of the main criticisms that the nationalist community has about the Nation of Islam is because we call it the Nation of Islam. And a lot of them really don't know our theology enough to know that it's nothing really to do with Islam. If I went to Saudi Arabia right now and told them what I believed, I'd be killed outright. I can't even pray with an Orthodox Muslim because they do salat and they're up and down and all that. If you pray the way the messenger told you to pray, he said, we've been on our knees too much. We stand upright to pray. So even that's not the same. He never wanted us to be Arabized or to follow the Arabs in any way. It's completely different. So it's really a misunderstanding because we do call ourselves the Nation of Islam, where people think that that is, that we have anything to do with Arabs at all. That's an argument I hear a lot.
Well, and let me, and I got to do, God, I hate to be on the opposite end like this, but I got to be, ain't nobody else look like they going to call and do it. I got to at least half-heartedly make the argument for the brothers and sisters that will call. Now, I have to say this.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, you say that, but now the statements are definitive that, things like we Black Asiatic, we not African, and quite frankly, the Arabs in Asia, that Islam is the Black man's true religion. Not, you don't say our brand of Islam is, even though, I mean, of course, he teaches his brand of Islam, so which means whatever it is he's saying is the Black man's religion. But quite frankly, he says Islam is the Black man's real religion. That's what they teach. And more importantly, maybe the most honorable Elijah Muhammad did not teach to be Arabized. I would not dispute that whatsoever. I ain't never heard him say nothing good about an Arab.
Mm-hmm.
However, substantial numbers of individuals in the nation. I mean, let me make it real more simple than that. When Minister Farrakhan finished the Million Man March, he went around to a Muslim tour.
Exactly. And I can address everything you just said. Number one, the Arabized Islam came into effect in the Nation of Islam the day after the messenger died, not a day before. That came into the Nation of Islam when his so-called son, well, it was his son, but I wish he wasn't sometimes. When Wallace took over, he introduced that into the Nation of Islam. That was never the case under the messenger. And since the show was on the messenger, we can't even look at what happened after the messenger because this is a bunch of mess what's going on now. He did call us Asiatics instead of Africans, and that was taken from a lesson that we study. Basically, why does the devil call us African? And our basic, the theology around that, or the belief around that, was that Black people are not just in Africa, they're all over the world. You see Aborigines in Australia that should be classified as Black. There's Africans in India. There's Africans everywhere, basically, over the world. The world belongs to us. So it wasn't just, something, again, we don't like Africans or we don't want to be associated with Black Africans. No, his thing was the whole world is ours, all of it. That's where the African thing came from. As far as Islam being the Black man's religion, he did teach that, but it was never the quote-unquote Orthodox Islam. To him, Islam was submission. He taught that the religion of Moses and Jesus and Abraham and all these people was Islam. Now, of course, Islam, Sunni Islam or whatever, was not there before Muhammad. So obviously it was not talking about Arabized Islam, but those are things that you learn when you come into the Nation of Islam. And there's a lot of things that if you're not familiar with the Nation of Islam, you'll either misunderstand or take out of context. And it doesn't sound good, but that's because it's not in context.
Well, let me ask you, I'm the bad guy tonight. I gotta be right. You don't have another bad guy, so I'm the bad guy. All right. and this is real now, and you can tell me what you've heard, and let's be real about it. Now, I have heard Minister Farrakhan tell the story that the reason our hair is in the texture that it is because. Now let me.
Go ahead. It's funny though. Go ahead.
You want to jump in there? Don't even let me get it out, man. I heard it. I mean, I've seen it myself.
I know.
The reason that our hair is quote unquote nappy is because we were cursed by God because we had disobeyed the Creator, and we end up fleeing into the jungles, and then our noses began to swell because it was so dense in the jungle. And then we start getting this curly hair, and by his own words, the hair on our head is supposed to be the same texture as the hair on our eyebrows. Now, when I bring that up to brothers and sisters, they say, well, yeah, the messenger taught that too.
No. That is because, and see, this is another problem, and this is why a lot of people have problems with the Nation of Islam, because not only do people on the outside not know a thing about the Nation of Islam theology, people on the inside don't know either. Most of these people today have never even picked up a message to the black man. A lot of people have never heard the messenger's voice. Believe it or not, it could be people listening right now on the Nation of Islam, and those clips you played are the first time they've ever heard the messenger's voice. And that's because people told them that he had a speech impediment and you couldn't understand him. He talked a lot clearer than my grandparents. He had an accent because he's from down south. He's from Georgia. He didn't have a speech impediment. He's not hard to listen to. But a lot of people in the Nation of Islam have been brainwashed into believing that, and so they believe it. And they don't know anything about the messenger besides what some liar told him. So, yeah, somebody who constantly for the last 30 years, maybe 40 years, has put a conch in their head, a Duke kid or whatever, of course they're going to have a problem with our hair and try to make it sound like that and misquote what the messenger said. The messenger never said that it was some kind of curse or anything like that. The theology was that there was he called him a scientist or just a black man basically, who wanted to make a people stronger so that they could live in harsher climates. And it was out of that, making somebody a stronger man, that our hair became more kinky. It was never a curse. It was something that strengthened us. It was a good quality. The messenger never had a problem with kinky hair. If that's the case, he would have never put a ban on us perming our hair. We really weren't even supposed to, hot comb our hair. Some of the sisters did because they bugged him so much about what to do with their hair that he finally gave in and said, okay, you can use that. I don't want you using it, but you can use it, but you can't make it bone straight. It still has to have a nappy kind of appearance. But if you need to do that just to get a comb through, fine, so y'all leave me alone. But you could not have straight hair in the Nation of Islam. You cannot perm your hair in the Nation of Islam. So when you see somebody standing up now who had an afro up until 1975, and all of a sudden his hair is fried, dyed, and laid to the side, you have to ask yourself that question when that part of the theology is being reinterpreted to you.
All right, hold up. I know you ain't said zoo. Man, okay, all right. Let me ask you a question. Okay, because now this is the first time I heard it, and I will admit, usually when somebody try to make arguments for this stuff, it sounds pretty ridiculous and bizarre. But what you just said, I could actually buy that. If that was what was originally said and this interpretation was given, then I could see where they're very similar, where somebody could say that, not whether they did it on purpose or not, but I could see that's just a slight variation. And with the variation comes a very different kind of feel to it. Because if it was done to make you stronger, even if you say that, the pure African national will say, well, no, this is our natural hair state. So why would that still suggests that we had a different hair texture to begin with? At the end of the day, though, the purpose of it being said as a story is to say this is a strong thing. So when you see it like this, it's powerful, which means if you have a race of people who, quite frankly, we can look outside and see today, hate themselves and hate the natural texture of their own hair, and thus particularly for our women, that becomes a source of just definitive self-hatred on a daily, nightly basis. And you give our people a story that says this is something that makes us stronger, that God wanted us like this because it makes us stronger. I can buy that. I can even work with that because whatever it takes to get our people to be proud about who we are, I can work with that. However, I just want to be clear for the record. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I heard that story that you just said like that. I can work with. I can run with that. I ain't got no problem with that. The story I heard, let me just say it again so I'll be clear. Mm-hmm. That it was taught that we disobeyed God, mm-hmm. and then we was going back into the jungle, and our noses got broad, and then our hair got straight, and then you up there trying to talk about black power because you got that nappy hair thinking it's something good. It's not something good. It's a curse.
Yep, and the answer to that and the truth can be verified in Message to the Black Man. It's right there in black and white. But like I said, people fall for the okie doke because they don't read, especially in the nation. We don't read. And that's another thing. People blame us, for, like I said, last week, the Messenger spoke highly of Marcus Garvey. Now, some people don't know that because they don't read, because they don't have access to his speeches, which that's not so much their fault. I personally had a lot of elders around me who gave me this information so I could study it. It wasn't always readily available, but the books are. So when you say they don't give Marcus Garvey credit and things like that today, they don't give the Messenger credit. They don't study the Messenger. They don't know what Marcus Garvey did. They don't know his success because they don't even know the Messenger's success. They don't know the businesses they have. They don't even know simple stuff. Like when you were talking about the dress of the Nation of Islam and it being security, you're right. But it goes even deeper than that. There's a reason why people wear the clip-on bow ties. It's for security. There's a reason why we wore certain skirts that we wore back in the day, and I actually still have the pattern for it. It provided security. It was a rape deterrent. If we wore those skirts, it was very, very hard to figure out how to get those skirts off in order to rape or molest a woman. So it was so deep, and people don't know that because they don't study, and they should.
Okay. You know what? I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to finish this show out, but this is what we got to do because I'm being 100% honest with you. I'm just being 100% honest with you. Sometimes when I hear people defending some of the stuff that comes up, I be like, I love the brothers and sisters in the nation because they fight us for the race. So I let them talk the gibberish, but because I love them, but I don't say nothing. But it be gibberish. But like, I ain't being funny when I say this. You're telling me different interpretation stuff I ain't never heard, and it gives a completely different kind of interpretation. I think we need to do a show. It's called Getting the Record Straight. That you can, since you so informed, since I've been doing this for years and I ain't had no brothers in the nation be able to explain this stuff, or sisters in the nation be able to explain it like you're doing now, since you want to blame everybody else for why we don't understand the messenger stuff and be putting this message out there, then it's going to be your responsibility to come on here and get all of us knuckleheads right and break down to have an understanding of what the messenger really taught, not just in the theology part, but like when you say that the patterns of the dresses, part of the science of it was to make it difficult to sexually assault a woman, man, that makes the man a whole different type of person, because now you're talking about the number one thing that was the pain in the heart of black men during slavery, to see he couldn't protect our women. And now the man has an institution and he creates a deterrent for the black monsters in our community who act like whites and for the whites from being able to gain easy access to our women. That's serious, sis. That's serious.
It really was. And I mean, it was such an institution. Like you were saying with the whiting fish, we were one of the first black groups to do import and export on a large scale. We had a deal with people in Peru to bring our fish in. We shipped that. That was not, white people. That was us. We had our own clothing factories, farms in several states, bakeries, schools, just all kinds of things that people don't know about.